everyone. We'll start with third chapter of 7th standard NCERT Geography. We'll read, meanwhile we'll understand the chapter as well as per the requirement of UPSC CSE exam. So the chapter name is Our Changing Earth. So last chapter if we see, we were thinking on the dynamism of Earth. Right. So meanwhile we also understood interior of the earth. Now they are again using the same word, changing earth. Nothing but dynamism of earth. We'll see what they are trying to explain in this chapter and what are the key terms that we have to learn from the chapter. Okay, the lithosphere is broken into number of plates known as the lithospheric plates. We already studied what is lithosphere, that is uppermost part of a earth or the crust, right? So now that lithosphere is not one single lithosphere, but it is broken into different plates. That is said to be lithospheric plates. Okay. You will be surprised to know that these plates move around very slowly, just a few millimeters each year. This is because of the movement of the molten magma inside the earth. The molten magma inside the earth moves in a circular manner as shown in the activity. So now they are explaining these plates are there. There are a number of plates. And these plates are not constant. These are moving very slowly. How much? Millimeters each year. Very slowly. Why they are moving? Because we have seen crust, nothing but lithosphere. And then below that we have mantle. So molten magma is present inside the mantle, and this is moving in a circular pattern. That's why the plates are moving. So they just said there are plates, those are moving. Why those are moving? Because of the inner layer mantle. What is there in mantle? There is something called magma, which is moving in a circular manner. That's why plates are moving. Now we got to know plates and the reason why they are moving, right? So they told how it is moving, why it is moving circularly will be explained here. So according to see this activity, take a small colored paper pellet and put it in a beaker half filled with water. Okay. So place the beaker on a tripod stand and heat it. As the water warms up, you will observe that the paper pellet is moving upward along with the warm layer of water and then sinks back along with the cooler layer of water. The molten magma inside the earth moves in the similar manner. Very nicely they explain. We can also try. Though we are preparing for UPSC to understand the concept more clearly, it is better we will try and do, right? So they just explained why it is circular movement. We will go for the next paragraph. The movement of these plates causes changes on the surface of the earth. So because of this plate movement, there are changes on the earth. Now we read the title as changing earth, right? Why changing? Because plates are moving. Why plates are moving? Because magma is moving in a circular path. So the earth movements are divided on the basis of forces which cause them. The forces which act in the interior of the earth are called as endogenic forces, and the forces that work on the surface of the earth are called as exogenic process. So yesterday we read like earth is dynamic both internally and externally. So external on the surface of the earth, it is exogenic forces because of the forces called exogenic forces. If it is inside the earth, it is endogenic forces. So they just told the reason. Now they are given a good chart here to understand the earth movement. Earth movement is divided into, it is based on endogenic and exogenic forces. Yes. So if you take endogenic inside the earth, what is happening? Sudden forces and diastrophic forces. Sudden is quick. Diastrophic slow forces. So we'll understand sudden forces because of which what are all the events happening, and diastropism is very slowly. So what are the processes that are happening? So inside the earth, because of sudden forces, we have earthquakes, volcanoes, landslides, even you can consider avalanches, etc. So for diastrophic forces, we have mountain building. See, mountain building won't be happening within 1 or 2 days. It's a very slow process. So that is an example of diastrophic activity. So if you take upon the earth, on the earth, it is because of exogenic forces. So what are the things happening? Erosion and deposition. Okay, erosion and deposition is happening because of what? Because of river, wind, sea waves, glaciers. These are the mediums for erosion and deposition. So it's a well explained landform evolution chart. Okay. We'll go to the next era. Endogenic forces sometimes produce sudden movements and at the other time produce slow movements. Sudden movements like earthquake and volcanoes causes mass destruction over the surface of the earth. So we all know earthquakes and volcanoes which are happening suddenly. We learnt it from chart, and because of which we will be having a lot of destruction. A volcano is a vent. Now we'll understand what is volcano. Volcano is a vent. See, this is vent actually. Volcano is a vent opening in the earth crust through which molten material erupts suddenly. We already learned inside the earth there is something called magma. It is moving in a circular manner. Right. So if that magma, if we see, this is also magma. See, it is moving circularly. Suddenly it comes out of the earth through a vent. It forms a volcano. It is very hot, right? So that is what they are talking. If molten material erupt out suddenly, it is volcano. So then we have similarly when, okay, I'll just explain how this volcano looks like. So this is magma chamber. See, this is mantle. Inside that we have a magma chamber. This is magma. So it will come out of crust and then form volcano because it is erupting out of a vent. So if there is something open like this, a circular one, then it is called as a crater. So the channel it passes through, it is a vent, and the material it is carrying, it is a lava. Okay. Similarly, when the lithospheric plates move, the surface of the earth vibrate. So when lithospheric plates moving, you can't move so slowly without any vibration. Vibrations are common, so it will vibrate. The vibration can travel all around the earth. These vibrations are called earthquakes. The place in the crust where the movement starts is called focus. The place on the surface above the focus is called epicenter. Vibrations travel outwards from the epicenter as waves. Greatest damage is usually closest to the epicenter, and the strength of the earthquake decreases away from center. So here they have nicely explained. See, inside the crust there is a epicenter where that vibration starts. So it's a focus actually. So straight to it is the epicenter on the top of the earth. So from here also vibrations will move. That's what they are saying. Wherever the vibration originates, that is called as focus point, and the top of it exactly from the crust, on the crust or lithosphere, we have epicenter where the vibrations are more and then the destruction is also more. This is where the earthquake occurs, focus. Okay. So we understood now, because of volcano eruption outside the earth, it is volcano. If it is a vibration inside the earth and then causing destruction on the earth, it is earthquake. Both of these are sudden events. Although earthquakes cannot be predicted, the impact can certainly be minimized if we are prepared beforehand. So it can't be predicted, but not accurately predicted, but yes, we can take a measures to stop or to minimize the effects beforehand. Some common earthquake prediction methods adopted logically by people include studying animal behavior. So we know, like, if animals are going away from that particular area, we will also sense, okay, there is something ecologically happening. So animal behavior, fish in the ponds get agitated, snakes comes to the surface. These are some of the indications. Okay, earthquake hits Bhuj. Once in a Bhuj also there was a earthquake. We'll see. A massive earthquake measuring 6.9 on Richter scale hit Bhuj town on 26 January 2001. Okay. School worst affected. At least 971 students and 31 teachers were feared to have lost their life following the collapse of school building. So many people lost their life, particularly school. 3 days after the quake, concern rose about food blankets. The medical supplies not reaching everyone. Destruction of Bhuj. Phone lines, water pipelines, and power stations transmission lines were knocked out. Fire in the city. Hundreds of fires started as charcoal cookers overturned. Emergency declared in quake zone. The president declared a state of emergency. CMs appeal to the center. Gujarat appeals for financial help. The Chief Minister of Gujarat has launched an appeal for the center to deal with the disaster. This is what happens if something suddenly happens. Right, see, when suddenly earthquake happened, what happens? First of all, the constructions will fall down, like school got affected, and the people inside that life lost. Okay, life will be lost. Then after once earthquake is stopped, then food, blankets, and the medical supplies, also the phone lines, etc., water pipelines, everything will be disrupted. Along with that, fire on the city, etc., and then finally emergency state it will go to, where it requires a financial aid to get back to the normal. So these are the impacts of earthquake. So what can be done? Earthquake preparedness. Way to take shelter during the earthquake. Figure out the safe spot under a kitchen counter, table or a desk, against an inside corner wall. Okay. Stay away from fireplaces, areas around chimneys, windows that shatter, including mirrors and picture frames. Be prepared. Spread awareness amongst your friends and family members and face any disaster confidently. Confidence comes the first. So be prepared. Take out the safe spot and then be there. These are the things, okay? Okay, major landforms. The landscape is being continuously worn away by two processes, weathering and erosion. So we already read about endogenic forces and endogenic actions like earthquake and volcanoes. Now we'll see exogenic, so such as weathering and erosion. Now we'll see what is weathering. Weathering is the breaking up of a rocks on the earth's surface. So breaking of rocks is called as weathering. Erosion is the wearing away of a landscape by different agents like water, wind and ice. So if just it is it got fragmented or broken down, it is weathering. If this is carried out, then it is called as the erosion. Okay, and eventually deposited. This process of erosion and deposition create different landforms on the surface of the earth. So because of this breaking down, weathering, and then erosion, carrying it from one place to another, erosion, and then deposition here. These sediments are deposited here. This will form, see, here the sediments is gone. And sediments over here are deposited. So landform got changed. That's what they are saying in this para. Next, work of rivers. The running water in the river erodes the landscape. So what are such agents? One is rivers. So what they are saying, the running water in the river erode the landscape. When the river tumbles at steep angle, see, very steep angle, over very hard rock or down a steep valley side, it forms a waterfall. If it is a steep valley side, then it falls it forms a waterfall, right? Steep is like a sharp. Already we read the term called steep. Where did we read? In the past chapters when we are talking about what is a mountain. Mountain will have a steep slope and they also form valley. So at the steep valley side, we see the waterfalls. Okay. As the river enters the plain, it twists and turns, forming large bends known as meanders. See, when it is a steep, it will fall like this. After that, it has to move like this slowly, right? Because there is no more steeps. So once they start moving, it will form some curves called as meanders. This is called as bending, right? So that is meander. Due to continuous erosion and deposition along the side of a meander, the ends of the meander loop come closer and closer. See, it is moving. Initially it will move like this. Later it will move so closely because sediments are deposited. So what happens later? So in due course of a time, meander loop cut off from the river and forms a cut-off lake, also called an oxbow lake. At times, the river overflow its banks. This leads to flooding of the neighboring areas. As it floods, it deposits layers of fine soil and other material called sediments along its banks. This leads to formation of flat, fertile, flat plains. The raised banks are called levees. As the river approaches the sea, the speed of the flowing water decreases. So we'll understand this. See, initially when they are in a steep slope, they forms waterfalls. Once they start moving on the plains, they try to curve, bend. Because of bending, they form meander. This is meandering. After once they are completing this, the meandering will become very close and it got cut off from the main channel. This is called as the oxbow lake. Now we understood what is meander, what is oxbow lake. Then in one more term, that is flood plain. What is it? While these rivers are moving, once in a while it will flood and then it will deposit sediments. So they will slow down and they move in the same path. Whatever plains that are formed because of flooding of a river is called as a flood plain. Okay, see, I'll say this. At times the river overflows its banks. This leads to flooding of the neighboring areas. As it floods, it deposits layers of fine soil and other materials called sediments along its banks. This leads to the formation of flat, fertile flood plain. Okay, this is the thing. So then they also told the raised banks are also called as levees. So floodplains are formed and the raised bank, if the bank is more, raised bank is called as a sea. Now this is a new bank. This raised bank is called as a levees. River begins to break up into a number of streams called distributors. So later the rivers also will distribute, many distributors. The river becomes so slow that it begins to deposit its load. Each distributary forms its own mouth. The collection of sediments forms all the mouth forms a delta. So forming a delta. Finally the collection of sediments from all the mouth will form the delta. So once they start moving from steep slope, they will fall as a waterfall. After that, they start slowly moving in a curved path or bending path, that is meander. If this bending path cut off, it is called as oxbow lake. Once they move near to the long area or the sea, it will start distributing the tributaries. It's not tributary, it's a distributary because main river is spread into different branches. Because it can't move so fast in the same channel because the area is so plain. So and then they also deposit sediments forming a delta. Okay. Work of a sea waves. Now we see about a sea waves. The erosion and deposition of the sea waves gives rise to coastal landform. Because of sea waves, we will get a landform at coast, that is called as coastal landforms. Sea waves continuously strike at the rock. Rocks develop. Over time, they become larger and wider, thus hollow like caves are formed on the rocks. They are called as sea caves. Because of sea waves, sea caves are formed because continuous erosion will be there. As these cavities becomes bigger and bigger, only the roof of the cave remains, thus forming sea arches. See, initially starting they form a cave kind of thing. Then it will be two-way transparent. So forming a arch, sea arch. So as these cavities become bigger and bigger, only roof of the caves remain, thus forming sea arches. Further, Erosion breaks the roof and only walls are left. These walls-like features are called as stacks. Sea water is called the steep rocky coast rising almost vertical above. Sea water is called sea cliff. Okay. Then the sea waves deposit sediments along the shores forming beaches. Okay. So initially what they are explaining, see there is a rock. So the sea waves initially form cave, then forms arches, two-way transparent, then form stark, the vertical one cliff, remaining sediments are beach. So beach is also formed of erosional process, right? That is what they are explaining. So now we will see about ice, work of ice. Glaciers are rivers of ice which too erode the landscape by bulldozing soil and stone to expose the solid rock below. Glaciers carve out deep hollow there. As the ice melts, they get filled up with water and becomes beautiful lake in the mountain. The material carried by the glaciers such as rocks, big and small, sand, silt gets deposited. These deposits forms glacial moraines. Okay, so whatever these depositions brought by ice or the glacier are called as glacial moraines. You should be knowing what is moraines. These are the deposited materials by glacier moraines. So now we see the wind. Have you ever visited a desert? Try to collect some pictures of sand dunes. We are able to see here anyway. An active agent of erosion and deposition in the desert is wind. See, in case of glacier, it's glacial, water, and whereas in desert, it's a air or a wind. So, in deserts, you can see rocks in a shape of a mushroom. Okay, commonly called as mushroom rock. Winds erode the lower section of the rock more than the upper part. Therefore, such rocks have narrowest base and wider top. When the wind blows, it lifts and transports sand from one place to another. When it stops blowing, the sand falls and gets deposited in the low hills. Like structures, there are called sand dunes. See, these are sand dunes because of deposition. When the grains of sand are very fine and light, the wind can carry it over very long distance. When such sand is deposited in large area, it is called as losses. Okay. Large deposits of losses is found in China. So where will you see more loss deposition? It's in China. See, wind is depositing. Because of that, we are forming dunes. Also, we are forming loss. More loss are there in China. So, if because of erosion, mushroom rocks are forming. What does it mean? Narrow edges and wider upper part. Okay. So this is what all about changing earth. We learnt about two factors, endogenic and exogenic, and then in that sudden process and exogenic process. We didn't learn about slow process, that is diastopic forces. So we'll see it in a later chapter. This is all for today. Okay, there are small points we didn't cover up. We'll just have a look into. If anything important, I'll let you know. Lithospheric plates, we already read. The earth crust consists of several large and some small, rigid, irregular shaped plates which carry continents and the ocean floor. We know that. So then genic. Endo means inside. Exo outside. So endogenic, then exogenic. Genic is generation. We already read. We know that. Then we have, do you know, there are three types of earthquake waves. P waves or longitudinal waves, S waves, transverse waves, L waves or surface waves. Okay. Try to find. Now we have three kind of waves. Primary waves, secondary waves and surface waves. That is what they are saying. Primary waves are P waves. Primary waves are longitudinal. So that's the thing. Next we have one more. Do you know? An earthquake is measured with a machine called seismograph. The magnitude of an earthquake is measured on the scale called Richter scale. Then an earthquake of 2.0 or less can be felt only a little. An earthquake over 5 can cause damage from things falling. A 6 or higher magnitude is measured very strong and 7 is classified as a major earthquake. Now they are saying, see, this is a seismograph to measure the earthquake. To measure the magnitude, we have a Richter scale. That is the only thing, fact to be known. One more, do you know? There are thousands of small waterfalls in the world. The highest waterfall is Angel Falls of Venezuela. So highest waterfall is in Venezuela. That is Angel Falls, South America. The other waterfall, Niagara Falls, located on the border between Canada and USA. We know that Niagara found in Canada and USA boundary. Okay, North America, and Victoria Falls on the borders of Zambia and Zimbabwe. So we learnt about Zambia, Zimbabwe today in Africa mapping. So there we see Victoria Falls, Zambia, Zimbabwe. Both are Z square, Zambia, Zimbabwe. So we have seen 3 waterfalls at Venezuela, Angel Falls, and at the border of Canada and USA, Niagara, and Victoria Falls at Zambia and Zimbabwe. This is one more, do you know? Then, yeah, that's all. So that is all for the day. Have a good day.